We're going to do another batch cook meal prep session today, and you're going to end up with something wonderful that is going to make your dinner time meal so much easier. We're going to prepare 7 meals either for your freezer or for your pantry. You can either cook it all today, portion it out into 7 different meals, put it in your freezer, or you can go along with me and pressure can this and put it on your pantry shelf. It works perfectly either way. If you're going to cook it today and put it in your freezer, I would suggest either an Instant Pot or a slow cooker so that your chicken becomes very tender and kind of shreds apart, which is what's going to happen in the pressure canner for me. Welcome to Grow Preserve. I'm Carter and I'm thrilled you're here today. Let's get started. First, I have a bunch of chicken. This is about 6 pounds of chicken. So I cut it up. I took it out of the freezer last night and it wasn't completely defrosted, so it's been sitting here for about 20 minutes or so and it's almost defrosted now. I will tell you, it was much easier to cut when it was still partially frozen. So there's an idea for you. I also use this to help me cycle through the inventory in my freezer because the chicken is on the top shelf. It is harder for me to put the new stuff in the back. So I wanted to make sure that I got all the stuff out of the back in and that nothing goes bad in the freezer. So today I've got that. I have almost 1.5 pounds of tomatillos. I did not grow these. My tomatillo year was very, very bad, so we'll talk about that another time. But I bought these at the grocery store. It's just over 1 pound, between 1 pound and 1.25 pounds. If they'd had more, I probably would have gotten 2 pounds, but that's what I have today, so that's what I'm working with. I have some onions. I have 4 onions here, but 2 of them are really tiny. So if you really like onions, you can use more. If you're not such a big fan of onions, you can use less, or not at all for that matter. I also have a bunch of garlic that I will put, oops, I'm dropping it everywhere, but a bunch of garlic in here. And then finally, more for color than anything else, I have some little red peppers. Now I did grow these. They're not necessary at all. They are considered hot peppers, but they're not terribly hot. So I'm really putting them in there more for color in the jar. Then I also have, these are flame roasted green chilies. Usually you see these in the little cans at Sprouts or Trader Joe's, or I think Ortega makes some, whatever. I found this at Walmart. First time I've ever seen a really big jar of it. So I'm gonna use that whole jar in here today. And then you're also gonna need some broth or bouillon or something for the liquid that's going in here. Even though we're going to raw pack it, I'm gonna put liquid in here and I'm gonna mix everything up together so that my chicken comes out in very shreddable chunks. It doesn't come out shredded, if that makes any sense. Because I wanna have some versatility in how I'm gonna use this. So while we are chopping things up, let's talk about how we're gonna use this. I think I'm gonna get the tomatillos. I think I'm gonna get the garlic done first, actually. So I like to use this in like a white chicken chili. Makes it very, very easy. Chicken burrito casserole is another good one. Let me see what else. You could put it, oh, I know what I've done. I have put it in with some uncooked rice and enough water for the rice, minus whatever broth is in there. Cook that up, makes a fabulous rice bowl. I mean, just terrific. You can also serve it like Buddha bowl style with some rice and some beans and some cilantro and maybe some avocado or guacamole. That would be delicious. You could do it as a chicken tortilla soup. It could be your base for that. We're not gonna put any tortillas or anything in today, but you could open a jar, throw in your tomatoes, your corn, maybe your beans, tortillas if you use them, and that's it. You have a beautiful, fully flavored chicken tortilla soup. So this is gonna make mealtime so much easier. I love having these kind of meals on the shelf, ready to go. So I have my oven preheated to 425. I have a couple of well-used pans with some parchment paper on top. So I'm gonna get my vegetables cut up and I'm gonna roast them. I would suggest that even if you're gonna cook it today and put it in the freezer, that you take the time to roast the veggies. It adds so much more flavor, depth of flavor maybe is the right way to say it. So the chicken I'm using today is the organic chicken breast from Costco. You certainly don't have to use organic, that's just what I tend to buy. They are about $6 a pound now. So I figure I'm gonna have $36 in chicken, give or take, in these jars here. So if you used just conventional chicken, which is perfectly fine, I don't know what that is now, $2, $3 a pound maybe? So let's call it 3. You've got $18 worth of chicken in here, a couple dollars worth of onions, a couple dollars worth of tomatillos, maybe a couple dollars for this. You're looking at $25, $26, $27 maybe for 7 meals for a family of 2 to 4, depending what you serve with it. I think that's pretty good in this age of inflation. So when you got to pull this out and cook it the night you're going to have it for dinner, it's literally going to be, depending what you make with it, but you can easily turn it into dinner in 15 minutes or less. It just makes it so easy to put dinner on the table after a long day. And it's healthy. You know what's in it. You know exactly what's in it. You can make all kinds of casseroles with this. Just a, you know, what I used to call a dump casserole. You know, whatever I happen to have in the fridge is what goes in here. So if you've got extra carrots or bell peppers or cilantro, when you go to cook it, that's what you put in there. Now, when we are making this versatile dish here with just the basics, I would really honestly just stick to this. It'll make it easier because then you're not stuck with whatever it is. And you can only have that one thing. I like the versatility in the pantry. All right, I'm gonna chunk these up. I'm not gonna use any oil on my pan, but if you want to, you can certainly use a little bit. If you're gonna cook this today, you have lots more flexibility than canning. You can use whatever you would like, frankly. Put a little bit of salt and pepper in here too, simply because I find it undersalted if I don't, even between the broth and the peppers. So onions make me cry every time. You know, another thing I might use this for, and I know it's not traditional with the tomatillos in it, but chicken corn chowder we really like. So I think it might be good actually with the tomatillos in it. And I would just add some potatoes and some corn when I go to cook it. You can certainly add beans or whatever you like. Ah, sorry, crying. Okay, so I've done the onions. Ah, look at me, I'm crying from the onions. Sorry about that. I've done the onions in chunks and they're, you know, it'll separate like that. So I want them big enough to know that there are actually onions in there when they come out of the pressure canner. But I don't want them so small that they disintegrate. Look. Ah, that happens to me every time. Every time. All right, let's get some garlic on there. This one is beat up a bit. This is garlic that I bought from Costco, again. Organic garlic that's already peeled for me, which is so nice because I just can't stand peeling it. It gets so sticky and makes such a mess, and the little peels go everywhere. But anyway, I will be peeling it. I grow my own this year, we'll see. This right now is just ridiculously easy. It, you know, it comes in those huge bags, but you can ferment garlic, and that is usually what I do. I also sometimes put it in vinegar, just do a little quick pickle of it and put it in the refrigerator. It will keep for quite some time that way. It will turn a little bluish green, particularly when it's in the jar. When you pull it out, you don't really see the tint very much. But the taste is absolutely perfect. So I'm all for whatever makes your life easier. And if having somebody else do the peeling of the garlic, bring it on. All right, I'm gonna get this in the oven and then we'll work on those tomatillos and the peppers. So that's what I have going in right now. Hot oven. All right, let's do some tomatillos. I have washed these and gotten the sticky off. Oh, cute. All right, I'm gonna cut these, the bigger ones, into quarters. They will break down a good bit, but I don't want any big hunks of skin left or anything because I'm gonna leave that on. Grew tomatillos this year. I grew 3 plants. You're supposed to have at least 2 so that they can pollinate each other. So I thought, well, I'll grow 3, you know, just in case something happens to one of them. Well, I had 1 plant that kind of withered away and did nothing. 1 plant that got massive but never produced a single fruit. And 1 plant that produced a couple of handsful of fruit, and that was it. So that was a little disappointing. I won't be wasting the space on tomatillos next year. I'll just get them at the farmer's market, oops, or the grocery store. Yeah, that's the thing. I have several folks who've said to me, a couple of folks who've said to me recently that they don't can because they don't grow their own food. And I thought, well, you know, I don't grow my own chicken, but I can chicken, and I certainly don't have a cow in my little subdivision lot, tiny little subdivision lot, I might add, but I can beef. So you don't have to grow, which you can. You don't even have to buy it at the farmer's market. Although I am all for supporting local farmers. You know, sometimes farmers markets just aren't where you want them to be when you want them to be there. Grocery store is just fine. And in our area, I've noticed that farmers markets seem to be even more expensive, and they're not necessarily the farmer who grew it. You know, they've imported it from, we live in Tennessee, they've imported it from Kentucky or something, which is great. It's a lot closer than importing it from Brazil or wherever. But you know, I miss the old days when there were farmers markets where you could actually talk to the farmer. This is a huge one. I'm going to cut this into several pieces. I'll get these in the oven, and we'll just put those out, and we'll just put the peppers in when it comes out. All right. All right, those should be in there for about half an hour probably. Now I'm gonna take my chicken and we're gonna start adding to it. So that's the big bowl of chicken. It's cut into bite-sized, maybe a little bit larger pieces. I'm gonna get these peppers in there. Salt and pepper. I'm doing this in quart jars. You could certainly, if you'd rather, do it in pint jars. You know, you can use smaller freezer containers. If, you know, maybe you're just 1 or 2 people. Not a problem. We're 2 people, but I do like leftovers. So I'm gonna go ahead and use the quarts. So, you know, if we're gonna have a soup or something, it's probably dinner for 2 of us in there. But if I'm gonna have it as a casserole or, you know, a big Buddha bowl with some rice and beans and guacamole, then it's probably dinner for 3 or 4. All right, let's get salt and pepper in there before I forget. So I'm doing 7 jars. So I'm gonna do 2 tablespoons of salt. That is going to be about half a let's do 1 tablespoon of salt. That'll be about half a teaspoon per jar. That does not sound like much, does it? You go ahead and do another ½ tablespoon. You don't have to salt it if you don't want to. And then I'm going to do the same in pepper. All right. Now let's get this jar open and in there. I love the flame roasted green chilies. One of those things I'm just never going to can because it's so tedious to roast and peel these things. Oh, it smells wonderful. Okay, I'm just going to pour that all over. Okay, that's what I've got so far. It's going to be nice. All right, I'm going to mix all of this up so that all the chicken is coated. When those roasted vegetables come out of the oven, I will mix those in here too. You could technically just layer everything in your jar, but I like to have a little bit of stuff in between the chicken pieces so that the chicken pieces come out as pieces rather than just shredded chicken. It's still going to shred exceptionally easily, like with the back of a fork. It'll be shredded chicken. But this is going to give you a little bit more stability in the pieces. Okay, so that's what we look like so far. So I'm going to wait on the vegetables to come out, and then we'll come back and we'll get all this mixed up and jarred up. In the meantime, I'm going to get my bone broth organized. I'm probably going to use a little of this as well, simply because it adds some good flavor. All right, they're out of the oven. I put them all on one pan so I can show them to you. A little bit of char, nice and wilted down. It smells so good. That's a little better. Now let's get the vegetables in here. I pulled the garlic out a little bit early because I didn't want it to get too brown. Everything was in the oven maybe 25 minutes. Everything there is on top. We're gonna mix it up, get it into the jars. I have a cold canner behind me because this is, even though those vegetables were hot, the chicken is cold, everything else in here is cold. The jars are cold. I washed them with some hot soapy water early this morning. So we're gonna start with cold. So everything is the same temperature. If you're gonna cook this from here, prepare it for the freezer. This is what I would put in the Instant Pot or in the slow cooker and just let it go for the appropriate time in either of those. So, it looks good. I know it's raw chicken, but it looks good. All right, so I have my jars ready to go, and I'm gonna put a little bit of the chicken broth in the bottom of them because that's going to help me with debubbling, so I don't end up with any air pockets down at the bottom. All right, so I have about 7 or 8 cups of broth prepared. I may need to open another box or make some more. So just a little bit in each, 1/4 cup, 1/2 cup, just enough to fill in any air pockets that we don't want. All right, I think it'll go through my funnel. We're gonna find out. First thing I'm gonna do is try to portion out the meat evenly between the jars. About 6 pounds of meat, we're going to end up with a little less than 1 pound per jar, which certainly makes it plenty to feed a family depending on what else you do with that. In a casserole or in burritos or in soup, you know, with a bunch of potatoes or rice or beans or whatever. Easily dinner for 3 or 4. When I was working and I had kids at home, mealtime was always one of those, you know, things at 4 o'clock. I go, oh no, what are we gonna have? And then either I didn't have all the ingredients of whatever I wanted, or I just didn't have the energy. I wanted to give the kids something healthy. I ended up doing a lot of freezer meals back then. It made life so much easier. It really did. I just can't stress enough how much, I don't know, less stress there is when you cook once, basically, and then you just put it together each night. That's all we're really doing here. So whether you put it in the freezer or the pantry, it's completely up to you. I don't have a lot of freezer space. And, you know, I'm not completely sure about our grid here. I don't know if I'm gonna lose power this winter. I don't know what's going on. So I'm gonna put mine in the pantry, but whatever suits you is absolutely fine. Okay, am I relatively even? Let's see. That one's over. That one's a little high. Okay, I think that looks relatively even. So I'm going to pour the liquid in there and then we'll debubble. Now, this is raw pack, so the chicken itself will give off a little bit of liquid. So I'm going to give it maybe 1.25 inches of headspace. It'll settle back down because the chicken, once it gives off its liquid, it'll shrink a little bit. But in the meantime, I don't want any bubbling over in the canner. Oh, I have to make some more broth. Yeah. All right, these are a little short. Top them off a little bit. Okay. No, it doesn't look like a whole lot right now, but it sure does smell like chicken Verde. All right, I'm going to debubble these. Now I know I'm using a metal knife. You're not supposed to use a metal knife, but my debubbler tool is nowhere to be found. I normally use a plastic fork or knife or something in a pint jar, but it's too short for the quart jar. So I'll get these debubbled. I'm just going to be very careful. I have chopsticks too somewhere. I can't find them. So a knife it is for right now. Okay. Wipe the rims. I've got some white vinegar on a towel. Make sure there's nothing that's going to prevent a good seal. I'm going to grab some lids and some rings, and I'll be right back. Got my rings. I have some new lids. These are 4 jars canning lids. They are all the rage at the moment. And they are cheaper than buying the little ball lids at the grocery store. I haven't had any issues with them. Everything has sealed. So far so good. All right. Put these on till they catch, and then just a little bit farther. So let's talk about, if you're gonna can these, how long they'll last on your pantry. Lids say these, you know, they're guaranteed for 18 months. Honestly, if the seal is just fine, nothing is broken, nothing has popped, nothing has dented, nothing has rusted, they're perfectly safe for as long as they stay sealed. You will start to lose a little nutrition at some point in time. You know, there's some discussion, is that 18 months, is it 2 years, is it a year? I don't know the answer to that, but I had a jar of potatoes last night that I canned 2 years ago. So I'm just not worried about that at all. All right, I'm gonna get these in the canner, and I'm gonna do them for 90 minutes. And I am below 1,000 feet above sea level, so I use 10 pounds of pressure. Can you see the jar? Those little red peppers, they're kind of cute. Glad I did that, although maybe I should have done more. They're really pretty. But I'm gonna get these in the canner, and they will can for 90 minutes. And when they're done, I'll come back and show you the end result. All right, everything's in the canner. As soon as they're done, I'll come back and show you the end result. If you're cooking this at home and you're doing it in your Instant Pot or your crock pot, your house is gonna be smelling so good. So enjoy it. I'll be back shortly.